what's up. So this is where that guy comes from. Mortal Kombat. I had a bit of a fascination for it as an older kid, at least the first 4, but now I'm just like, oh, that still exists. Since 1992, this bloody franchise is infamous for its bloody fatalities, more gruesome than the last. Fuck, seeing these clips make me wonder how this is more normalized than fucking nudity. YouTube may not like both, but at least I can actually show these without monetizing them. Makes the first ones look tame in comparison. Don't let those who protested the violence back then see the new ones. It's also well known for the robust fighting mechanics, at least the latest ones, and the convoluted lore that really likes to reset itself more recently. I'm seeing double here, 4 cages! And Cyrax and Sector are women now? Good for them. But I'm not talking about the new ones. Let's start simple. Mortal Kombat. The 92 original struck the many nerves of parents in the arcades, where 7 challengers fight to the death in a fucked out tournament to confront the mastermind and his 4-armed body in order to give it back to the Shaolin monks or whatever. It's basic as shit, just like any other fighting game back then. However, it stood out for its digitized graphics as well as the fatalities you can do at the end of the match. It's one of those games that contribute to the creation of the more standardized ESRB rating system we all know and tolerate, at least in North America. And since controversy sells, it enjoyed so much success and couple quarters that it eventually got ported to home consoles, more famously the Genesis one, because you can actually play with blood on by using a button combination on the screen. Nintendo, still trying to be kid friendly and all, didn't allow such thing and forcefully reported the SNES version to just remove it altogether. Thankfully that got sorted by the second game. Speaking of which, you got a lot of sequels, movies, shows, toys, a DC crossover that isn't as bloody, and all that junk. For today, I'll be looking at the entry that does away with digitized actors and into the realm of 3D. And boy, this series had a difficult relationship with it. It all starts with Mortal Kombat 4, released to arcades in 1997, the same year as Tekken 3. While the game got ported to systems like the PS1, N64, and the PC, all ported by Eurocom, plus a Game Boy Color remake, I'll be playing the enhanced Dreamcast port with a few more characters and other such stuff. Released as a launch title for the console, Mortal Kombat Gold is actually the worst reviewed home console port, getting an average of 55% according to game rankings. What a difference 2 years make. Critics complain about, among other things, the graphics being dated compared to Soul Calibur, making the console look weak. Which is funny. I wonder how those same critics would think of some new games nowadays looking like this on purpose. And this is the only time I'll ever chastise other critics in this video. When you start off the PS1 port at least, you first get the ad for the game you just bought. Great ad by the way, but still. Then you get the backstory of the game. Raiden, not Raiden, tells us about this bad elder god named Shinnok who he had a battle with and ended up killing his civilization. Whoops. After centuries of war, he managed to send Shinnok to the Netherrealm, only to emerge back after Shao Kahn's reign got stopped.
The war is now being fought once again. Only this time, it can be won by mortals.
It's alright I guess, not something unusual for this series really, it's just this bad guy is trying to rule the world, stop it before it's too late! Nah, you don't get this FMV right away actually, you just have to wait at the title screen for it to play. But you're here to fight, not to listen to some boring story, who even plays Mortal Kombat for the story anyway? Shit! Let's just go to arcade mode right away. Here's a roster from the start, not very extensive, at least the non-gold version, only 2 more than the regular third game, but it still has your favorites, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Johnny Cage, Sonya, Jax, Liu Kang, Raiden, and Reptile. Unusually not wearing the ninja getup as those two. I don't like it, but it is unique. But you also have some new additions like another black guy, Not Kano, the yellow girl, Airman, the guy from the arcade cabinet, that guy, and villain boss Shinnok, who you can just play as right away from the start. Something tells me the devs didn't have as much faith on him as these two. And as this is the gold version, it has a few additions like Kung Lao, Baraka, the Cyborgs, Kitana, with a mascot for this game, and Melina, who I think is the hottest out of the roster. It's because of her Takana mouth. Tangent is water under the bridge now, but I really hate her MKX appearance so much. Why did you give her lips? There's also a few hidden characters like Meat over here, and Noob Saibot. Still a hilarious name these days. But like in my Vampire Savior video, I don't have one that I consider as my main. I don't play these games that much, at least not anymore. So it's another matter of just play as whoever, I don't care. I do fancy the women in this case. And after MK3, it's gotta have the ladder picking mode. Jesus Christ, I'm not doing that one. Let me preface the visual stuff with this. If you're noticing some sharpness here, it's just the emulator I'm using, Redream. I tried on an emulator and it ran fine, but for some reason, this one tends to have an inconsistent frame rate. I disabled frame skip and frame limiter just in case, but that didn't work out. Doesn't help it doesn't have an option for VSync. But anyways, I know this doesn't showcase the graphical power of the Dreamcast that well, but despite that, I think it looks fine. The models are of its time, it looks fine in 1997, it looks fine on the PlayStation and N64. On the Dreamcast, it does look rather dated, even compared to the rest of the launch lineup, but I don't mind that much. While I prefer the PS1 look for its pixelated warpiness, I still like the shove of low-poly characters in-game, just all blocky, and animations that just aren't there, compared to something like Tekken's fluid moves. The stages are pretty nice looking, few of them letting you do its fatalities, and speaking of which, the fatalities are cute too. This being from 1997, they're not as disgusting, thank the gods. However, they're not as shocking as at least the first two. MK3 was absorbed with how many limbs you see after your opponent explodes or gets eaten, but these ones are just, I'll be honest, 2D ages better. Sound design is good, if played at a low bit rate, even on the Dreamcast. The voice acting is hilarious, however. It's always funny hearing these guys and gals being gibberish whenever they do a grab or produce a weapon. Few times they're not actually gibberish. Shame the gold characters have the grunts and screams of the for MK2. I'd call them lazy, but considering this was rushed to meet the Dreamcast's American launch, all I gotta say is fuck the publisher. But oh man, don't get me started on the endings. Ditching the test epilogues from the first three, Midway saw what Tekken had and decided to make cutscenes as such. Even the arcade and N64 versions have them, in engine form, whereas the rest went with FMVs, but either way, they can be really cheesy. Aside from Johnny Cage's one, they're unintentionally comedic to say the least. Underacting mixed with overacting, still with animations, just all out fun really.
The Black Dragon died with Kano. You're the last one, Jarek.
Never!
Still better acting than Ronda Rousey.
None of us saw Kronika coming, not even Raiden. But with the hourglass, I can see every terror in the realms. Any sane person would run screaming at the sight of them. It's my duty to take out these ancient, all-powerful beings. But to do that, I need an elite squad of immortal gods.
And NetherRealm never learned their lesson for the next game. Stop hiring celebrities who can voice act for shit! For music, it's alright. The Forest and Snow Stages theme reminds me a lot of the one from the second game, and I think it's the best overall. Goro's stage is a close second, but everything else is mid. They can be foreboding, yes, but I've heard better. However, this is issue in the gold version where in the Forest and Snow Stages, the finish stem loop just plays even when the round is completely over. Typically it goes like this.
Finish her! Flawless victory.
By the way, this is the fixed version, and yet they still didn't fix this shit.
Finish him! Sultan wins.
As this is the gold version, which also includes stages based on ones from MK3, it of course has music lifted from them. And what a contrast. I still prefer MK2 over it, but the difference is night and day. The Cheers one is my favorite out of the bunch really. For basic controls, this is a 6-button affair, except it's 4 attack buttons and 2 others. There's no mid ones, only lows and highs. So in a way, it should play more like an SNK fighter. But it does not. There's a dedicated run button instead of tapping forwards to do so. And unlike some other same fighters, if you want to block, you don't just move the stick back to do so. No, you have to hold the block button. Yeah, having played other games that aren't in real life, that caught me off guard, and at least though it lets you block like in Street Fighter. But despite their rather simplified control scheme, which usually screams so many moves, the fighter's movesets are neither complicated nor overwhelming. Just a few special moves, a combo to draw your weapon, and 2 fatalities. No animality, no babality, friendship, whatever. We've gone back to square one for this, and we'd like you to take this shit serious. Even then, it still plays like MK3, tendon combos and all. Nothing wrong with the classics, I kinda love that stuff even if I suck at doing said combos, but for a game that's trying to go for a new direction, it felt rather samey. Oh well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Fatalities, meanwhile, same as the last few games. When the match ends and announcer Quan Chi tells you to finish them, you can do a button combo to do a killer move. Each fighter has their own unique fatalities, ranging from Liu Kang turning into a dragon and eat his rival, Scorpion's Fire Breath, Sonya's Kiss of Death, and Tanya's little neck-breaking move, which is just one of her standard grapples, only it actually kills her rival. Still better than Liu Kang's in the first MK though. Like I said, the fatalities here aren't as gruesome as more recent entries, so don't expect any vomit-reducing scenes after performing them. Gives me a laugh though. However, the way to input some of them can be daunting. It doesn't help that some require you to be at a certain distance from the rival, and you also have a limited time before your rival just keels over and die. Hard for me to remember even have to move somehow. Like shit, I have to use block too? Maybe I should go back to Street Fighter or whatever. But this isn't just your regular Mortal Kombat game, this one has weapons! Whoa, this game immediately turned into Battle Arena Toshinden! At least this one's better, sorry to all free Toshinden fans still existing. Yeah, don't expect any Soul Calibur levels of sword fighting, it's more basic than fisticuffs. Best you can do is throw it at them for better damage. I ended up almost never using melee for this video because it apparently needs a combo to bring them up. A rather simple combo, but it's different from each character, so that sucks. Of course, you can also grab rocks on the stage, throw at them, and maybe do an infinite with them. Annoyingly, the manual itself doesn't tell me how though. But then there's this annoying thing, maximum damage. If you do a combo that goes over 50% of damage, you get kicked back like a little bitch. I get this was made to prevent players doing infinite combos, but it can be irritating, and I can't do said combos to save my life anyway. There's also a 2v2 mode, much like Ultimate MK3. However, to put it simply, it's kinda like Vampire Savior, in that 2 fighters are actually just 2 life bars, except the matches are not decided by only 1 round. A bit of a disappointment, but it's also hilarious in that whenever your partner goes down, they explode into bits! Holy shit! Don't worry, they get fixed up for the next round. Magic! And then there's the elephant in the room, the 3Dness of it all. Somehow it's barely used. Sure, you can sidestep, and certain moves push your opponent to the background, but there are many more moves that justify its 3D gameplay. No throws from the side, and the only moves you can avoid while sidestepping are projectiles, and that's a lot. Doesn't help that there's long intervals in between sidesteps for some reason. Quite a disappointment, especially considering that this game was originally released months after Tekken 3 hit the arcades, which probably put sidestepping to the map. If you just take away the 3D concept, it's just Mortal Kombat 3 yet again, chain combos and all that. They only added it just for the sake of keeping with trends, and it's rather half-assed in the end. Now call me a filthy casual scrub all you want, but I've been playing this game on very easy mode, and I will say, talk about false advertisement. Even on very easy, I still got my ass kicked hard. The first match was just a fluke. Every fight else gets immediately harder. Good luck trying to have a streak if it's your first time playing, because these fuckers are relentless. I hope you can get past Goro without using save states. You can try cheesing it. I most certainly tried. He is a big guy after all. Just don't get too cocky or else you get hit by his teleporting stump. So difficult to avoid. Quan Chi has a similar move, also has bullshit, but considering he's a regular sized dude, I think he's hotter. Speaking of which, limited continues. Even on the console versions. Like, dude, I paid for the game, why are you fucking me over with this shit? Sure, you can set the number of continues up to 9, but it shouldn't have a limited amount in the first place. After many rounds later, it's time to fight Big Boss Shinnok. And as I expected just from looking at the character select screen unlocked from the start, he's a rather disappointing final boss. He's the Shang Tsung of this game, though unlike him, who morphs into different characters mid-match, he just changes to different combatants' movesets instead. So he plays like Unknown from Tekken Tag Tournament. Helps that they both have memorable looks, though I think the latter is more so for reasons. And unfortunately, at least for the disc versions of this game, whenever he changes styles, the game hangs for like a second, and I think that screws with the flow. Still better than MK Trilogy, but I should have reviewed the N64 port. It's whatever, easier than Goro, at least on very easy. And just like that, he's dropped back to the Neverrealm, now with a skin face as a bonus. Here's your silly ass ending and the staff roll, the end. But hold on, there's some console goodies included, such as Team Battle. Speaking of SNK fighters, it's as simple as the King of Fighters stuff. Pick a selection of 3 or more combatants and fight until either of you have no mates left. Except this is actually like King of Fighters. Instead, it's just regular matches with 2 rounds each by default. And it has to also load a new stage for each new fight. Bit of a disappointment, but eh. Then there's Endurance, which is this game's survival mode. However, you can either have a regular infinite gauntlet or do one ladder with a single unhealing life bar. Good luck! I actually don't mind this challenge, and it's also funny seeing my character with only a sliver of life left just be defeated by my opponent's first punch. You also have your tournament mode, which is, well, tournament mode. What more can I say here? Well, at least you got a nice scene of your character celebrating their victory in the end. And then you have the all-important training mode. Your standard stuff with a quick character and stage selector, which is neat. Though the things you can do here are rather lacking. You can't make your dummy just crouch, guard, or whatever. It's either having the AI active or not. But at the very least, I can check the command list when I pause, though I wish I could do so during proper fights. So that was Mortal Kombat 4. It's full of disappointments, but even then, it's fine. It's pretty much like MK3, just in a 3D environment and another shit included. Though despite that, the 3D gameplay just wasn't there. And even if it wasn't as refined. While the presentation could be rather cheesy, I really don't recommend playing it these days. Why would you when you have better options, like the more recent entries anyway? Oh, because of how actually buggy and busted the port is, it does have its reputation, sure. I just wish I was good enough to showcase it though. If you really want to get the game, well, at least the PC version is available on GOG, but it doesn't contain the gold editions. Still cheap though. Next time, we're exploring a spaceship Bonia for reasons. Hey Pinkie. Oh, it's you? Surprised? Man, you look like you came out of the Rock and Roll Express, except way more jacked. Abs for days. Thanks. My right arm incentivized me to have a lifestyle change. Surely you got wowed by many of your colleagues, although... Is 9 months too quick? Nah, it's enough to get in this shape. Nice tat, by the way. I didn't know you were into tribal stuff. It's Jin Kazama's tat. Well, more like Unknown's from the tag game, since hers is like Jin's but on the right arm instead. Fucking nerd. You're still a snarky bitch, but what's going on? Well, I said I was on a mission with Claire, I just didn't know she was a little too trigger happy. Someone found us a bit suspicious and she just murdered everyone in the ship. And with that, she made me quit the HEF just now. Simple as that. What a bitch. It's Claire Rosenthal. Not only does she have a lust for blood, she is also a serial liar. I had suspicions about her, but since you know more about her, tell me more. Did she ever tell you she used to be friends with her sister? They were never friends. They hated each other since birth. Their mother only wanted one daughter, but because of that, her parents ostracized Nicole and Claire followed suit. That made her escape her family and become an anarchist. She never became a cop like her sister. Meanwhile, the sane and collected Claire was fired for being a sadist after trying to kill Nicole while interrogating, after she got powers from Vincent Benedict. And she managed to survive this call and form the Axis of Demantius. Man, when even regular cops just hate Claire's guts. You mean, she's still alive? And there's more than just us? It appears so. I interrogated one of her friends months ago, Marie, one of his exes, and one of mine. Which means joining will be a tall order for you and I. Wait, Marie wasn't even a pure human when she started dating him. What happened? More of her sister shenanigans. Sharon found out Marie was living in Elsa's apartment after she broke up with me, and she kicked her out. She didn't get any modeling offers, which meant she ended up living in her car, until Vincent found her. Like us, they wanted help, companionship, and love. Not the right kind of person for them, but I understand. But yeah, so far, only 2 warriors that I know of, and it's always the twins, huh? Anyways, talk about timing. After doing some indie dates in Japan on the side, one of the bigger wrestling promoters gave me a 2-year contract to work for them yesterday. The perfect opportunity, don't you think? Glad you're still chasing that dream after all this time. But if you ever meet Claire again, ignore her. Completely. You know how to talk to me next time.
Bye.